Welcome to Sandra Torno Art. Today I'm using my leftover watercolor from my project yesterday, and I'm going to make two backgrounds with my leftover paint. I cut out a little square of acetate, wet my watercolor paints, and putting it on there so I can kind of determine where I want colors, and they're all going to mix and mingle, but I have a little more control this way other than with the brush, which I'll use at a later time. But this will give me a little more control of how I want it to look. When you have leftover watercolor paints, it's not always the best option to paint a picture with because you've mixed colors. You can make mud pretty easy with the colors that are left on your palette. They could be too watered down or too thick or just a lot of different scenarios. So I don't recommend using it for a picture or a painting, but I do recommend using it for backgrounds for greeting cards. So I've got two blank watercolor greeting cards here, which I'm applying the paint with the acetate and using my water bottle to spray it and to let it, like I say, mix and mingle. I'm going to do two today. I'm going to make a greeting card with this one here that I'm working on now. The second one, I'm not going to do it on screen. I'll do it separately. I've got two small wire racks that are just like kitchen wire racks, but they're like 5 by 9, 6 by 9, very small. They fit over my glass mat very easily. I can let the watercolor drip on my glass mat and then just wipe it up. Here I've applied water and letting it run at an angle, and I just try to keep my area as clean as possible. My desk has a covering on it, but I always work on top of my glass mat because it's just easy to clean up. So I'm using the acetate still and taking the different colors and applying it to this sheet. There's no right or wrong. On my palette, I had green, red, blue, and yellow. But I also had orange. So the orange could make a little bit of mud, which you'll see. I kind of noticed that, and I use my water to spray it off or use my painting brush to sop up the the paint that's run to the edge to try to get that brownish color off. It actually did really well at the end. But be aware of what colors you have on your palette, because if they're not complementary or colors that go together, of course, then you are going to make mud, so you have to be careful. See, that's the orange, and the green is going to make brown. So I'm trying to be counterintuitive. I've just got another little plastic brush that I have. I use it to make dots on my paintings to hold the paper down while I'm painting, so I don't have to get the oil on my hands on my watercolor paper. You can see here where the watercolor is resisting. If I was a betting person, I would bet that I touched that and it has oil and it's resisting the watercolor. So what I'm going to do is use a brush to put in some watercolor paint to camouflage that. So that's one reason you don't really want to touch your paper at all, if you can help it. I like to use something else to hold it down. A lot of times I just use a paper towel. But with a thicker paint and putting it there, and I'll use some more water, it will cover up. There's nothing white going to be shown. So now I'm taking my flat brush, and I got a jar of water, you can see towards the back, and getting my paintbrush wet, dipping it into the watercolor and just splattering it. What's the difference? Well, if you'll notice, the first option with the acetate, it's more of a blended look. This is putting more of a spatter look. I like them both, and they'll both intermingle nicely as long as you're using the same colors. I'm also using my brush to tighten up the edges, make sure I've got everything covered. This is going to be a background for a greeting card that I'm going to do. I don't like to be wasteful. I like to use what I have to the best of my ability, but sometimes you have to just let it go. Like if I had done this painting and this was total mud when I got done, I would have just washed my palette and kept on, just moved on. It's not worth the fight, but I had some good separate colors in here. I knew the orange was going to be a problem, but if you look here, when I spatter it on top of the other colors, it does really nice. So we get a little contrast in colors there. We're just moving on. You know when you're finished. You know the look you're looking for. There's no right or wrong. When you feel like it's finished, then I would suggest stopping. Here I'm using a rag. You could use a tissue, paper towel, and just sop up the edges where it's very thick paint and water so you don't get blooms when it starts to dry. My paper is very, very wet. As long as it's wet, I can keep working. If it starts drying, then spray it with your water bottle, and then you can continue on. If you let it dry and try to do this with it dry, you're going to end up with blooms, and it's just not going to look right. So here I finished the first one. I put it to the back, and now I'm going to start the second one. Now the second one, I actually did not do the greeting card here on the video, but I'm going to just show you real quickly my process on same process using the acetate to see where I'm putting certain colors, and then using the brush to come in and let them mix and mingle and make a beautiful background. The hardest part is catching these watercolor papers on the racks. Sometimes they can get away from you. And my area that I'm working here today is not very large, so that happens too. And could I have just put it on my glass mat? Yes. But I like to be able to pick it up without it sticking to the glass mat, move it around. This just works for me. Whatever works for you, I say do what feels right and do it your way. Again, the main thing, have something to hold the paper so you don't get oil on your watercolor paper. And obviously, you need to use watercolor paper. I'm spraying it to get that paint to move. I'm going to shake off the excess water, let it run both sides. And I'm going to mop up the edges of the card. These are like postcard size. They just work perfect with an A2 card, and you get a panel in the back, and then you use this as the front portion, put something on it for a focal point, and then put some kind of greeting on it. So here I'm going to shake off this excess. And I cleaned up my mess. I didn't think you needed to watch me do that. Just wiped everything up to start again. And washed the edges, washed off my glass mat. And here I'm just going to spatter some more paint. Very fast. I did not fast forward any of this, and I did 2 of them in less than like 15 minutes. So very fast. And then of course what I did is when I finished, cleaned up my palette It's ready for my next painting. But I did a painting, made 2 backgrounds of cards, and I just don't feel like I wasted anything. And it didn't have to be pure watercolor. It could have been like a blue and a yellow to mix into a green. That's fine. The green and the red are complementary. So everything's harmonious. You're using your basic 3 colors, blue, yellow, and red. And like I said, I do have some orange in here, but it played well. It didn't do bad at all. But the orange was the only one that was out of kilter, that could make mud, but it corrected itself real easily. Just be aware of what colors you're using. So here I'm going to shake off the excess, let it run a little bit. Clean up my mess again. I always like to keep the edges clean so you don't get any weird markings. And I think I'm going to give it one more go before I finish this one. As you can tell, when I added that water, it faded out quite a bit. So I'm going to give it one more go and get some good coloring in here. So what do you use as a focal point on your card? Use whatever you have. On the one you're going to see, I actually used pet tape, which is from the washi shop. It's like washi tape, but it's pet tape, and it's shining. And the roll that I used was a combination of different flowers and sunflowers. You'll see here in a moment. And I fussy cut them. I took my real fine scissors and cut around the flowers and made a bouquet. So I didn't just lay the tape on top. The reason being, pet tape is shiny. I don't mind it. And when you fussy cut it, it really brings it to a minimum. Unless you just hold it in the light and look at it, it'll be shiny. But laying down on a table or picking up here and there, it won't be. I'm just fixing my edges because I want everything to be covered, because I'm not going to be cutting this down. It's the size that I want to use. And this is the end result. If I can pick it up. Yep. Turned out really pretty. Very vibrant. Very cheerful. So here, they're still damp. They're not sopping wet. I'm taking just table salt, and I'm going to sprinkle onto both of them. I've cleared my table, cleaned my mess up. My OCD is always in check. So I'm going to sprinkle salt on this, and I'm going to let it dry naturally. I'm not going to use a hair dryer, so you're not going to see that part. We'll just move on to the next step. Once it's dry, you just brush the salt off, and then you're ready to go on to the focal point that you're going to use for your card. So here, I'm using my Misty. So I cut out 2 die cuts, 2 squares, one in black and one in white. And I'm going to take a second white and use my magnet and hold it down. And I'm going to take one of my stamps, and it says Miss You. And I'm going to use black permanent ink and stamp this to apply to the card. Now, do you have to have a Misty or stamps or pet tape? No, you don't. You can use what you have. We all have something. You might have another painting that you could cut into squares and use as the background. You could handwrite your message. My handwriting is not good enough. So here you see the black layer, and then I'm applying the white layer that says Miss U. I love that it's the letter U and not Y-O-U. And I'm going to set the acrylic block on there for the glue to dry because it is like 3 layers. Again, cleaning up. That's why I love my glass mat. So here is the white blank card base, which is white inside. You can write your own message. I'm taking a piece of orange 65-pound cardstock, applying the Precision Craft glue to it. I'm going to glue it to the front. Not measuring. You can measure if you'd like. And then I'm going to take the card base background that I made with the pet tape with the flowers on it and the message and put it on there, and it's all finished. It's ready to go. And here's the end result. I think they turned out marvelous. The salt effect on this is lovely. Blank inside, write your message. A2 size. Thank you for joining me. See you soon.